there was no genocide in Gaza. I'm genuinely, with all due respect to you, sir, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by my own government, although the government actually even admits, but a lot of the ministers, that a former British ambassador in Iran could claim that there was genocide in Gaza, when even the stats given by Hamas themselves do not even remotely suggest there was any attempt or certainly the achievement of genocide in Gaza. That's an absolute nonsense, with all due respect.
I have a right to reply to that remark.
Very quickly, if you could, Sir Richard.
Your opinion is contradicted by a great many international, including Jewish experts in genocide.
Yeah, there are lots of experts in genocide who would say very different.
What is up, everybody? Harry here. This is Julia Hartley-Brewer on TalkTV interviewing Sir Richard Dalton, the former British ambassador to Iran. And it turns into one of the most heated exchanges in this whole series so far. They clashed directly on whether Iran was actively building a nuclear weapon, whether the strikes were legal, civilian casualty figures, and right at the end, whether what's happening in Gaza constitutes genocide. This covers some of the most contested legal and political terms in international discourse right now. So I want to be upfront that I'll try to lay out what's actually verifiable versus what remains genuinely disputed among two experts, rather than picking a side. Get subscribed if that's useful to you. Let's get into it.
First of all, what you make of what Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary for War, has been saying, that war is going to end in Iran when Americans say so, at the Trump administration's own choosing. He said that Iran has made a big mistake by targeting its neighbours. I think many of them were rather surprised to find missiles raining down on them, you know, UAE, Qatar and others. And he said that basically this was not going to be anything like what happened under Bush and Obama, where he said the endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush and Obama, not even close. Basically saying, look, this is about not letting Iran get a nuclear war. We're not going to build a nation. We're not going to be putting troops on the ground to, you know, help form that nation. We're basically going to be in and out. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the world can do without this kind of yee-haw exceptionalism, this vainglorious that has, under Trump, attacked more countries than any other previous president. I think we need sober analysis. We need good plans. We need legal bases for action. I support the British government position on all those matters. And I don't know when this war will end. We get such confusing signals. One moment Trump says, yes, it's going to end soon. And then Hegseth says there's no date, it's going to end when we want it to end. The Iranians say, well, hold on, you attacked us. So we have a say on when it ends. So I'm afraid the present situation is one of confusion. The salient fact is, though, that the United States and Israel have set about destroying Iran. And according to Trump, that objective has been achieved. He said, we have destroyed a country. So I think now is the time for all countries who are impacted by this illegal war to get together and demand de-escalation and a ceasefire.
Okay. And
Britain should be in the forefront of that effort.
It's interesting. I mean, you say this is an illegal war. We've had many on the Labour backbenches and arguing this case. Why on earth do you think this is an illegal war when Iran has declared war on Israel, declared war against America, issued terrorist attacks on in both countries, been funding the terror and war aims against both countries for many years? How on earth could defensive actions to prevent that from happening be an illegal war?
Well, you're telling lies. Iran has not declared war on the United States. There was no
They've pledged the destruction. The Iranian regime has pledged the destruction of America. There was no imminent
threat against the United States. Now, I do not believe in pacifism. I do believe that war can be justified, but just the same way we declared that there was no legal basis for Putin's invasion of Ukraine, there is no legal basis.
That's not the same at all. Ukraine was not
a threat.
Ukraine had not threatened Russia. We know that Iran, the Iranian regime, and again, I think we should talk about the Iranian regime rather than Iran. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're very aware of your expertise, the difference between those things. They've made it very, very clear. Death to America is a bit of a clue, isn't it? Death to Israel. I mean, why should either America, I mean, they were clearly trying to build a nuclear weapon. The threat to Israel as an ally of America was clear.
They were not clearly building a nuclear weapon.
What on earth would you claim
lie. There has no evidence been produced that that was going to happen. Trump's excuse that there would be a nuclear weapon in a fortnight is a lie.
Well, again, I agree with you in terms of how much can we trust what Donald Trump has to say on these things. Israel was certainly very much of the view that we know that it's well documented that Iran has been trying to develop nuclear weapons. They've been in long-term negotiations, long-term dispute with all the International Atomic Energy Authority over being able to actually look at what they're doing. Because for some reason, despite being a major oil producer, they're of the view they desperately need to have the uranium developed to a level where far beyond nuclear power capacity and into nuclear weapon capacity. I don't think it's credible to say.
You are grossly distorting the evidence. You are out of your depth in considering the detail of this subject. Don't smirk at me like that.
I'm not smirking at you. I'm finding it absolutely extraordinary that anyone can even question that.
I shall tell you, the International Atomic Agency, in one of its most recent pronouncements, said that it had not detected any evidence of an active nuclear weapons program. Now, yes, they had enriched uranium to a dangerous level.
Why?
But their policy of not developing a nuclear weapon has been consistently stated. And the allegation, oh, come on.
No, but the Iranian Ayatollah stating they're not developing a nuclear weapon, but they've enriched uranium to a point which is way beyond the need for nuclear power. It is only needed for a weaponry. And you think, yep, they're absolutely telling the truth.
We were in the middle of an active and successful negotiation to deal with that problem. So yet again, the United States and Israel have made the security of the world worse by the way they behave. They have done great damage to the nuclear non-proliferation regime, which I believe even talk would endorse in order to reduce the number of countries who have nuclear weapons. But why do you think nations now are going to trust the United States' word? Why do you think they will be prepared simply to have conventional weaponry when they face such odds all over the world against their adversaries? They will go the nuclear route, like Kim Jong-un in North Korea.
Well, we know lots of countries have done that, don't we?
That will be in history, connected to the unjustified destruction of Iran on false pretexts.
Okay. Again, I couldn't disagree with you more on all of that, but you talk about the destruction of Iran. Is it not the case that actually these have been highly targeted, military strikes? They've not been targeting, civilians, and we still don't know the truth about that girls' school next to an IRGC facility, who was responsible for that. But I doubt very much it would have been targeted deliberately by the US force, knowingly by the US forces. We're not seeing the destruction of Iran. That's quite the opposite from what we're seeing from reports, that actually these are highly targeted military targets, leadership targets, rather than the actual, the people themselves, their energy facilities, their water desalination and the like.
You're just putting lipstick on the pig. The fact is, Trump says we are destroying Iran. Moreover, the gross environmental crime of attacking all those oil facilities around Tehran is but one example. They are attacking fire stations, police stations. 12 hospitals, according to the WHO, have been damaged. And yes, 168 children were killed, maybe by mistake, but they set out to provoke state failure in that country.
What's wrong with
that
that,
has
given
been a
the state,
declared
the regime that runs
aim.
that state? A state that has threatened the rest of the world, threatened its neighbours, threatens the existence of Israel and every Jew in Israel, threatened America, has been behind terror attacks and threats in this country, has been funding this, basic chaos around the Middle East for decades now, that slaughters its own young people in the street, possibly 30, 40,000, even more than that, simply for asking, to have basic civil rights and women not to have to cover their hair. Why wouldn't it be the moral and good thing to try and oust that regime?
Well, they're going rather further than ousting that regime, are they not? They are trying to destroy the viability of the Iranian state. They are risking a breakup of the country into warring parties. They are risking leaving behind the Islamic Republic in a more ferocious state of mind. Now, I'm not justifying the 4 or 5 issues in which we have, and I personally conducted, actions against in connection with Iranian policy. But responsible governments have to look at the range of possible consequences and to decide whether what they intend to do is too risky or acceptable. Now, the first test is international law. The second test is whether you're going to leave Iran in a worse position and the international community in a worse position, as the United States did in attacking Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya. The United States' record in the Middle East is appalling, quite apart from arming and conniving at genocide in Gaza.
Oh, well, I'm going to end that now. Mr. Richard, we're out of time anyway. There was no genocide in Gaza. I'm genuinely, with all due respect to you, sir, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by my own government, although the government actually even admits, but a lot of the ministers, that a former British ambassador in Iran could claim that there was genocide in Gaza, when even the stats given by Hamas themselves do not even remotely suggest there was any attempt or certainly the achievement of genocide in Gaza. That's an absolute nonsense, with all due respect.
I have a right to reply to that.
Very quickly, if you could, Sir Richard.
Your opinion is contradicted by a great many international, including Jewish experts in genocide.
Yeah, there are lots of experts in genocide that say very different.
It's a question of the effect. The point is, Iran was contained. This war was unnecessary.
Okay. I disagree with that. I'd love you to come back. We've got a bit more time and we can talk a bit more longer about this. It's really interesting to do it.
Watch the IAEA claim closely, because it's the most checkable factual exchange in this interview, and it's worth stating precisely what the agency has actually said. Dalton's claim that the IAEA had not detected evidence of an active systematic weapons program, despite documenting uranium enriched to 60%, aligns with public statements from the agency's Director General, who has said publicly that inspectors could not confirm a coordinated weaponization effort, while also confirming Iran held enrichment levels with no established civilian justification. Both of those things are true simultaneously and aren't actually in tension. An agency can confirm dangerous enrichment levels exist while stating it lacks direct evidence of an assembled weapons program, since those are different findings answering different questions. Hartley-Brewer's framing that Iran was clearly building a weapon overstates what the IAEA's public position actually established. Dalton's framing risks understating how seriously that enrichment level is treated by the same agency. The honest position sits between the two, not fully on either side. The genocide question raised at the very end deserves care precisely because of how contested it is among people with direct expertise in the term's legal definition. A meaningful number of genocide scholars, international law academics, and human rights organizations including some organizations founded by descendants of Holocaust survivors and genocide scholars themselves, have argued the term applies to Israel's conduct in Gaza, citing scale of civilian harm and stated intent by some officials. Other legal scholars, governments, and human rights analysts dispute that the legal threshold, which requires proving specific intent to destroy a group as such, has been met, and argue the term is being applied too loosely to a war with a stated military objective against an armed group. Both positions are held by serious, credentialed experts, and asserting either there was no genocide or there clearly was, as a settled fact, misrepresents how genuinely unresolved that specific legal question remains, even as the human toll itself, whatever term is applied to it, is not in serious dispute. The specific casualty figures cited, 168 children and 12 hospitals damaged, are the kind of precise numbers that would need direct sourcing against WHO or independent monitoring reports to verify. And neither this interview nor this commentary can confirm them without that sourcing in hand, though casualties among children and damage to medical infrastructure during the strikes have been independently reported by multiple outlets during this period, where the closing narration goes well beyond what this interview demonstrates, is generalizing from one heated exchange to a verdict on the right-wing media ecosystem broadly and on public opinion patterns across multiple past conflicts. Those are much larger claims about media behavior and public sentiment over time that would need their own separate evidence, not something one contentious interview segment, however revealing about these two specific participants, can establish on its own. If breakdowns like this are useful to you, get subscribed to Harry Unfiltered, and I'll keep checking the specifics as carefully as this deserves, one interview at a time. It's worth also naming the declared war exchange as a genuine factual distinction, separate from the broader argument. Iranian officials have used hostile rhetoric toward both the United States and Israel for decades, including death to America and death to Israel, chants at state events, and that's real and well documented. But a formal declaration of war is a specific legal and diplomatic act, not simply hostile rhetoric, however threatening. And conflating the two overstates what has actually occurred in strict legal terms, while understating just how seriously that rhetoric is reasonably taken given the stated intent behind it.